It's late evening now on August the 29th. And I'm going to take you with me on a little walkabout of the garden. Stupid tomatoes. They are looking droopy. They're extra big leaves. They need a lot more water than the other tomatoes, it seems. In the next couple of weeks I had to be watching the forecast because I have to watch for any frost, and the tomatoes in the buckets, they'll be going in the sunroom. So any of these tomatoes that's on the vines in the buckets, well, they're going to get ripe because, like I said, they'll be going in the sunroom. And I'm hoping I get seed out of this. The name of this amaranth is Uppy Red Dye. You can see underneath the weeds that are in this area, there are several lily plants and dahlias. There's another kind of bulb, but I can't remember what it is. That's this. I can't pronounce it. Astible, I believe it's spelled. As far as the tomatoes here, I'm going to get a lot of green tomatoes at least, but the plants aren't very big, so for the first few frosts I can protect them from that anyway. I have another baby pan pumpkin growing. And look what I got in here. I have a melon growing. It won't get very big anyway, but it might get ripe. As I said in the past, grow melons here just for the fun of it and see if I get anything. I'm not really expecting. The most I got was a pumpkin the size. I had like 3 mouthfuls, but it was delicious. This one looks like he's getting some blight on him. I don't know if that plant's going to die back now or no. Anyway, underneath I have a head of cabbage. It's not really that bug damaged, so I have a nice small head of cabbage for myself. The first baby pan pumpkin has turned almost all orange now, and the tendrils dried up, so this should be ripe now. And these are a nice size actually. If you want to make a pumpkin soup or a pumpkin pie, they store quite a long time, and so you take just one pumpkin and use them. That way you won't have to store your pumpkins in like bottle them for as puree or something. You just store them in this form. I don't remember the name of the sunflowers, but they're getting awfully big. Look at the stalk on this one. This is one of the other amaranths. I thought that it was growing out by the front fence because that's where I had placed seeds. And then I found them in several other areas of the garden. Then I was thinking maybe they're Amaranthus reflexus, which is the native amaranth here. But and after a while I realized no, it's not. What I'm thinking happened is that I tried to grow several of them in cups, and when they didn't sprout, I took the soil that was in that cup and threw it in the compost. Then turning the compost, I had the seeds spread all through the compost, and now I have them in several areas of the yard. This year they decide to sprout. Oh, and this is Beaver Lodge slicer tomato, and in right here, it's a small one. They grow bigger than this, but the first ripe tomato off the Beaver Lodge slicers is a small one. As I said in the earlier video, I quit picking peas because I had enough in the freezer. But a viewer suggested pick dry ones and keep them as dry peas for making pea soup. So I said that's a good idea, because as dry peas, well, you can have a 5-gallon bucket full of them sitting in your pantry if you want. Using nothing, you don't have to can them or freeze them or something like that. So I'm getting a few now that have gone dry, see? Next week I'll pick those. My liatris is just starting to open flowers. This is the first year, so they might do better next year. The asters, they're flowering. This, I guess, is the tallest sunflower I got this year. It's just 6 feet tall. I think the soil is improving here. And so I got this Mysterium that's growing alright this year. And this one is doing really nicely. You see some of the flowers here is faded, but actually we've got seeds forming. So we got quite a few flowers on it. It's a small plant compared to what I've seen other people online had, but much better than what it was. So as the soil, I build up the soil here, it'll get better and better. And then we've got chamomile beside it. And the sunflowers, they do pretty well actually for being out here where the soil is the least built up. I left the space there. The birds are in the tree dropping the pine cones or spruce cones. That's the knocking noise if you hear it. This is a lovage and 2 St. John's wort. This is the Goji chinensis. They seem to be liking it just fine here. Let's see if I can get a... So they took to this area nicely. I have 2 of them. I have one there, and then there's another one right here. Don't know if I mentioned this before. I cut down the trees in the back here, and hopefully I can get the power line guys to drop these for me. And when I get this clear, what's on my mind is to dig away at the soil that's there at the base of the cliff, and there'll be some big stones, and I could probably put a sort of wallapini, the earth sheltered greenhouse, back against that cliff. That's what's on my mind right now. And then I'll go back to the old ideal of using that as an extra wood storage, because that it's shaded at least half the day. Even when these trees come down, it's going to have, like I said, half a day shade from this maple tree. But putting another one back here, it will get a full blast of morning sun, and I will have these taller ones removed, so it will get some evening sun in between here as well. I cut down with the line trimmer there just recently So you can see a nice walkway across the ditch here. And I'll put a dam right here. That'll back the water up. Earlier on, and I didn't have my camera with me, there was a sparrow taking a bath in here. See, they get in here. You can see, and that water is not very deep. It only comes up to, well, almost to a robin's belly. And so they get in there and they bathe. When I back the water up, it'll be too deep there. But along these rocks here, they'll still be able to get out on these rocks and bathe by the edge of the pond. Those rocks over there, we'll see how high the water comes up, whether the water will be up above those rocks or not. We'll see once I get the dam completed. So that's going to be the large pond. You see, here's the causeway I've got done for the small pond. So you'll look down that way and the alder will be removed. This plant won't be. I'm going to leave that there. But you'll be able to see the water down there. And just earlier today I put on the final layer. This will be as high as this dam goes, except for out right here I don't know what water is going to seep out around this way, so I don't know if I got to do any more adjustment here. But now I can walk across on dry ground here. I'm far enough above the water, and so right now I've got an excellent toad habitat. I'm expecting to see tadpoles in here come spring, and of course the water skippers and that, they've already colonized the area. Vegetable marrow. Got some nice beautiful squash coming on here. You see this one? It's getting cracks in the skin. The skin is getting fairly hard, but I can still make a mark in it with my thumbnail. And the stem is still quite green, so I'm assuming it's not quite ripe yet. For the plant that, well, I lost 3 plants, but I was worried about this one as well. He started to take off, and I think he's got the best looking squash on him of all the plants I got growing here now. The first squash that started on this plant though, it started to go bad. So I took that in the house along with another small one, and when I fried it up, I said, "Vegetable marrow? You're not kidding. And it's just like bone marrow." But what I found out was that marrow is actually the same plant as zucchini. And this is why now these plants are bush, just like a zucchini plant. But they are developed to be harvested. They're best when they're fully ripened, whereas a zucchini is developed to be best underripe. If you let a zucchini go to full ripeness, you basically have a marrow, but it won't taste as good as the ones that are specially bred to be best fully mature. The apples are starting to get ripe. I've got bigger apples than this off this tree. They're not ripe yet. That'll be another 2-3 weeks maybe. but they are very delicious apples. And it's a respectable amount of apples on this tree for the size of tree that it is, and considering that it had some damage over the winter. This Firecracker Goji, it's not faring all that well, but it's coming along. The other one that was down there I moved, and I have a video actually to show the move of that. And we see how well the Greek oregano is growing here. So I'll back off. That's growing fast. I mean, these are plants that I started just last winter, and they're that size already. I did this earlier today. So there's the Firecracker Goji. There was some leaves down here, and I'm thinking a slug probably come along and ate them. The leaves up here are still okay. I think he's doing better there, but that might be cognitive biased, and we'll see come spring. But I took up the sod here to finish that dam by the pond. There was some more kelp washed up against the shore, so I'm going to put down some kelp, and then I'm going to sift some native soil and put on top of the kelp. And then I got some herbs, ground cover herbs to put in there. I have 7 Dill's Atlantic giant pumpkin growing, and this is the only one that's green. They're not supposed to be green as far as I know. They're supposed to grow yellow and ripen to a gray, but he's green. Morton early cucumbers. I have to do a video about the cucumbers test and really talk about those. These are starting to fade now, so they'll probably be about 3 weeks though before I harvest these. These are starting to dry, but a long ways from it yet. I had to harvest some more beets and make a bottle up some beets, because yesterday I opened my last bottle of beets from last year. That's the Osage orange, and there was some volunteer turnips. I harvested the turnip and I just dropped the leaves down there as a chopping drop. What carrots I got to sprout, that's this bed here. Now, you see this? They can get to be very long and still not that big on top, and also they're pushing themselves out of the ground, so they I'm thinking there's some pretty big carrots among this. Won't know until I pull them up, of course. Now here's something I found out, or I realized. So you remember earlier that there was this caterpillar that would pull the flower heads in and just wrap it in its silk, and basically would destroy the flower heads. So that's what this is. But it put out flower heads late, and the caterpillars were not there. So it passed the caterpillar stage. Any flowers that came out after that stage were left untouched. And these are getting dry now. Soon to be, see, one seed just fell. And these, as you know, they were later flowering than the other two anyway. And they were left untouched. And I really have to look into it, because, see, this is what you need. all the way down this stem is dry. So all of these seeds right here, they're ready to be harvested. But here you get some brown seeds, but they're still a greenish tinge, so they're not ready yet. Trying to find. Here's a good example. There's a greenish, you can see greenish tinge on the branches here. But if you look at the top of the flowers, the seeds, then they're all brown. But they're not ready until it's dry right back to this main stalk. Onions are tipping over. There's not quite half of them yet, so we'll see if I'm going to harvest this bed along with this one. As you can see, most of the onions I've tipped on this bed, just the last few out. And so sometime next week I'm going to be harvesting this bed, and I will put out a video about it. And in that video you will also see what happens if you let a beetroot grow to its full potential. Sugar beets, I've got quite a few nice looking tops. And this beet this big across, my understanding is that they would grow similar to a Chantenay type carrot, and they can be up to a foot long. So this, when I dig it up, could be a huge beet. We don't know, but I am still kind of excited about digging out these and seeing how to process sugar beets. No sign. I haven't found any butternut squash yet, which is a puzzle. But I do have several zucchini. I gave my aunt 4 of these Ronda Nice, and when she's back in town, apparently she said she'll bring me back a bottle of zucchini relish. This one wasn't big enough to harvest the last time I looked in there. He is kind of now, but I'm not going to harvest him right now. Oh, and I found out what kind of potato this is. This potato, when it falls, flowers over here. Okay, so you have these purpley flowers. So it's a red potato. And you see the really deep, crinkled, dark green leaves. Now I have 2 types of red potatoes. There is Chieftains and Norlands. Well, and as you can see, they've come to the end of their life, really. This is the patch of Norlands that I planted. And if you look at the leaves, this is the actual color of what the leaf was, but it's much smoother and wider. So you see that leaf as opposed to that leaf. So this is Red Chieftains, and I have several other of them around, so that's good, because now that I know the variety, I can keep that variety separate from the other ones. This is Yukon Gold. So once you get used to growing the different varieties, of course, as soon as they come up, you're like, oh yeah, that's that variety. And this, a little similar to the Yukon Gold, but the leaves are longer, and that's your Cannabis. zucchini dark green I gave my neighbor, the one that was right here this morning. Nice looking kill underneath there. And so here's my thinking. This is the herb bed. We've got our Greek oregano. And you see I've taken the chives and I put them 3 and 3 in a block. So now I need to get another herb to go here. I was getting conflicting reports on what a rosemary would withstand for the winter when I was reading up online. So I said, well, the hell with it. I'll put these little seedling out here now and I'll see what happens. Here in this bed though, I can keep this plant small enough that during the winter I'll just put a bucket over it and it should survive. That winter savory is coming along. When it came back this spring, I'm like, it doesn't look like the winter savory that I am growing that I started this winter. But now it does. But at first it was looking kind of strange. Here's the parsley. I think I'm going to let this catnip have the full width of the bed. But I'll chop it and give it 2 feet. And have both of these purple lavender. I'll have them and I'll make a little curve in here and then kind of square to the outside of the bed. So what I can put in this bed is one more herb there, and if the rosemary, if I can keep the rosemary alive, well, he'll stay there, and one more herb right here. Over here I'm going to do some serious pruning on this next year. That's the lovage, which incidentally I cut this down and it grows too fast, so I just do chop and drop. I just chop it off and I put it down on the ground and let it stay there. Which I probably have to do that with some of the other herbs too. Sometimes I have to do it with these borage because that's a self-seeding annual, and basically they become a weed in the garden, but they get to be really huge plants. So even the ones that I selectively leave, I occasionally have to cut pieces off because it's overtaking whatever it's growing beside. And in that case I cut it up and stick it in among the plants. So there is a space technically between this lavender and the lovage where I can plant another perennial herb. The lavender wasn't looking very good in the spring. It wasn't looking very good last year, but when I trimmed it, then it bushed out and it's looking nice now, and I expect it to look really nice next year. The thyme is looking like a nice little bush there, eh? So this is how I'm going to keep the thyme in this bed. It'll be your nice bush like that, and over time this one over here, that one will be a similar kind of shape. There's the sage. I don't know what that's going to be like until a few years, if it doesn't die on me again. And once again, this is the first time I've actually just cut down the tarragon, so it's a matter of waiting until next year, I guess, to see what kind of a look that will have to it, as well as the St. John's wort. We don't know until next year, until time goes by and I start actually doing some serious trimming on it, what it will look like. I finished what I'm going to do with respect to the raspberry cages for this year. I got most of it held up in place. Don't have to be fighting my way through raspberry plants and picking them up off the ground to harvest the raspberries. I don't know if I mentioned this either. There's actually quite a few apples on that tree. They're green. They stay green. So they'll probably be difficult to see on the video anyway. They are subject to getting the fungus spots, but nothing serious. It's a wonder we haven't made pets out of gray jays yet. They seem to be really attracted to humans. There's two of them here, and they'll come close. And he's right over my head now. And there's another one behind me I can hear. But anyway, there is quite a few apples in this tree. There's the other one. See? You come right up to me. This is in the end. Now it looks like quite a mess there now, was because I put this restraint in place after everything had gotten grown. And these older canes now, they will be cut out in a couple of weeks' time. And then next year it won't be looking like a tangled mess as it does now. I backed up, so it's nice and straight. I gotta get my buddy, one of the village guys. He said he wanted raspberry canes, and if he don't come and get them, I'm going to end up mowing them over because they're outside of where I can let the raspberry patch go. This is the end of the raspberry patch and the door to the hen house. The garden is looking really beautiful now, and harvest time is coming along quite well. Oh, I guess I might as well point out, you see I have some more amaranth growing here. This is not the red-rooted amaranth. I don't know the name of this, and the company that I got it from, they don't have it in their seeds lists anymore. So it's a white amaranth, that's all I can tell you. And that was a little quick walkabout for August the 29th, 2020. I hope you enjoyed seeing the gardens once again, and I'll catch you in the next video. Bye for now.